She was pregnant at 16, witnessed her mother's murder at 19, did not get her CXCs until she was 33, but now she has 2 master's degrees and 2 PhDs. Charmine Johnson-Garwood shares her story on Profile. Welcome, I'm Ian Boyne. Charmine, so great to have you. You have a double PhD in psychology. Mm-hmm. Industrial psychology is one of the areas, and the other area in psychology is
clinical psychology.
Psychology. Your specialty is trauma, particularly mm-hmm. trauma in adolescence, mm-hmm. and you have experienced that trauma. You have had a difficult life from childhood, did not know who your father was. In fact, you were told that your father was dead. And you got pregnant at 16, had mm-hmm. to leave school. Mm-hmm. But tragically, witnessed your mother's murder by your ex-boyfriend. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that. What led to that?
Well, first, Ian, let me say, I'm happy to be here, and I really appreciate sharing my story with you and your audience. My mother died when I was 19 years old. Yes, it was someone I knew well, had a relationship for 2 years.
Yes.
But then I decided to become a Christian. Oh. I went to the Adventist church. They were having a crusade, and I was touched by the message there, and mm-hmm. I decided I was going to join the church. After I started going to church, mm-hmm. my then ex-boyfriend was a little bit uncomfortable.
Well, it wasn't ex then. Because you started going to church now,
yes.
You decided to leave him for Jesus.
Yes, I was in love with Jesus now.
All right, so you couldn't get any more sex, so, that became a problem.
Yeah, that became a problem.
Yes.
So he wanted at the time to join the church with me. Oh. And I said that was not how it was.
Wrong
there
reason.
had to be a conversion.
Yes.
And I knew what that conversion was. And I didn't think his intentions were pure. So I decided to do it on my own, and he definitely was not ready for that kind of separation. And so it became traumatic to him first, and then to me.
I see. So you decided to break the relationship because he wasn't a Christian?
He wasn't a Christian.
And then how you reacted?
Well, I remember the first time I recognized that he was really serious about his request that I should give the church up. I remember I was coming from church Wednesday night.
Bible study night.
Yes, yeah. Bible study
Prayer
night.
meeting.
And he held me with a knife, and he took me to his house. Uh-huh. And he said, if you don't come back, this is where I'm going to give you the stab.
He told you that?
And yeah, and I remember Ian, I lay down on the couch and I closed my eyes, and I said, make it quick because I don't want to struggle. And he said, you're crazy, leave. And I left. And so the following Sabbath, mm-hmm. I was going to church, Bible with hand.
You're going to church?
I was going to church, uh-huh. Bible in hand, and I saw him coming, and I went back. And my mom said to me, this can't go on. You have to report it to the police.
Yes.
So I thought, I'm still going to go to church, but I'm going to go to the police station first, and uh-huh. then after I would go to church. And so when he attacked me, my mother tried to defend me. And
so your mother was with you?
Yes,
You're going to church, you had your Bible in your hand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. She left home particularly to follow me to the police station. Right. And so when he attacked me, she tried to defend me. Oh. And he stabbed her first, and I started running. And he ran me down, and I sustained like 4 wounds. So both lungs collapsed.
Both of your lungs collapsed?
Both of my lungs collapsed. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. My mother died right there beside me.
Your mother died the same day?
Same day. I couldn't even emote. I knew she had died, but I was too weak to emote. I couldn't breathe.
What a traumatic Sabbath. Going to church?
Yeah. After that, Ian, I look at the God I serve with disdain.
You were upset with God?
I wasn't upset with him. I was dismissive. I was angry. And then, well, fortunate for me and unfortunately for me, my church sisters, one of my church sisters came and said, Charmine, you can come and live with us. And so I had to subject myself to those morning devotions. Ooh. And I was so angry at God, but I didn't have anywhere else to go. So so I had to pretend at that time that I was still with the program.
But you had lost.
But I had lost love. I had lost love. Oh. Yeah. And
you became an atheist.
I became an atheist for 15 years.
15 years you're out of the church?
Out of the church, and I was an atheist.
Because you were saying, how could God, you were on your way to church and God couldn't protect you?
Yes.
Or your mother?
The Bible, all 66 books in my hand.
Yes. So it's a very traumatic experience. And what happened to your ex-boyfriend who did that?
Well, the police went for him that day and he was killed that very day. Yes. So,
so you didn't even have the pleasure, some would say, of seeing him suffer?
To be honest, Ian, I did not wish to see him suffer.
You didn't wish to see him suffer?
After the incident, I was 19, but after the incident, when I reflected on it, for some reason, I could understand his pain. My pain led me to his pain. Oh. I could understand what it meant to lose someone you really care for. I had just lost my mother, and that was excruciating. And I could understand what it meant.
Empathize with him?
I was able to empathize with him.
And you began to see how painful your leaving him was?
Yes. For the first time, I experienced loss at a level that was a teaching moment for me.
So you didn't have hate for him?
I didn't have hate for him. I didn't feel hate for him.
You almost died, your mother died, and you didn't have hate for him?
I didn't have hate for him, and I was so ashamed for not having hate for him that I kept quiet. I did not call his name. I did not talk about him because I couldn't let my family know that I didn't feel the same thing they were feeling.
That's amazing. That capacity for empathy. Mm-hmm. And you have in your work as a clinical psychologist have studied children in pain, children in trauma. And you have come through in your professional work also to great empathy for children who have been through violent situations.
I have, because as I was sharing with you earlier, I believe that some of these things happen in our society because of the neglect of the mental health care for adolescents. When you look at the typical Jamaican family, you will see those families, the children are from the tender age of 5, even 2, 3, coming up. They are witnessing domestic violence. They are witnessing the neighbors fighting as well. Right. They are being abused physically, some of them sexually, and they have no outlet for this pain. But when they begin to act out, or when they begin to display like conduct disorder, you have an adult saying something is wrong with this child, and they're re-traumatizing the child by accusing the child of being dysregulated. So something is wrong with that picture. It's not like a child can get well by him or herself. Even as adults, when we go through issues, we take a long time to regulate ourselves. But we are asking children to regulate themselves after witnessing several bouts of trauma.
We're talking to clinical psychologist Charmine Johnson-Garwood. She specializes in trauma, particularly in adolescence, and she herself has been through her own traumatic experiences. We take our first break on Profile.